Hi and welcome to the latest episode of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. Welcome in, folks, episode 21. Not only that, but it marks another anniversary for myself, 3 years at Pat's Propaganda. I am so blessed that Mike Dussault gave me the opportunity to bring my content to you all. So thank you to everyone who's been reading, as initially I started as a writer, and now listening as I've done this show with my lovely co-host last season. So yeah, 3 years, very blessed to be at Pat's Prop. So, oh yeah, and shout out to Tom Shaw Mellors for recruiting me. So here we are, 3 years. And not only that, but if you do celebrate, it is World Book Day today as well. So if you are a bookie, I should have thought about that better. But anyway, if you're into books, happy World Book Day. So here we are. It is after the combine. It's after the franchise tagging, bringing you the show as we usually do. Chudders, how are things with you?
Things are okay with me. And congratulations, Claire, on your 3 years. This was an anniversary vodcast, whatever terminology we're using here. So no, congratulations to you. A great 3 years and many more to come, hopefully.
I do hope so, but we shall see, folks. We shall see. So to that end, I think we're going to do the combine first, won't we? Just I want to do something out on Pat's Prop to kind of give you guys more information anyway on what sort of was at the combine, because for a start, the list of tackles or offensive linemen was huge. So we don't really have enough time to kind of really go in depth to the players that we probably wanted to anyway, particularly because of this year, how significant tackle is. So what we're going to do is probably just give like a little bit of a overview of our combine opinions, but please keep your eyes peeled onto Pat's Propaganda for some more in-depth stuff when it comes to more players and that kind of thing. So yeah, then we're going to touch on free agency and the franchise tag and stuff like that. So, but we are going to give you another free agency show as well. When Chudders has time in the near future, we will hit free agency full blown. So we'll get to that as well. But yeah, Chudders, what was your sort of initial thoughts? How did you find the combine? You know, who stuck out to you? Maybe not necessarily somebody that the Patriots are going to pick up, but who did you kind of just enjoy watching anyway? Sort of what was the experience for you in general?
In general, it was very interesting and far more, I think possibly most of us were far more invested in the combine than possibly we have been previously for a number of reasons. One, the Patriots picking so highly meant that we were possibly more invested in what are we going to spend our capital on? Are we trading down and still getting some high draft players, or are we going to pick at 3 and take hopefully one of those blue chip players? So there was that investment. There was also more investment from press, media, analysts, fans, because the Patriots, and I don't just mean Fred Kirsch and his team, but the front office and coaches were giving us more because they were there and talking for once.
Yeah, big difference.
And so
big difference
exactly. So it was a big difference. We had Elliot Wolf speaking last week beforehand, and then Jared Mayo doing some interviews as well. We got more out of it. We were far more invested in it because we were getting more content back. Normally it's just, oh, well, we'll watch a bit. We know that Bill's up in a suite somewhere watching with binoculars. That's all we really got from it. We know they're going to interview some people, whereas we felt more vested, I think, with more interest. There's at least 3 positions that are quite high on our wish list of needs, in, as you've touched on, tackle, quarterback and wide receiver are certainly probably the 3 biggest needs.
Sorry, I'm supplementing tight end for wide receiver for my personal Pats fan thing, but that's nothing unusual, really.
Do you think the Patriots need a tight end more than they need receivers?
Didn't say that. I said I was more interested in the tight ends than wide receivers. See, you're putting words in my mouth once again, but no.
Okay, we can get to the tight ends. We can get to the tight ends. But certainly, I think from an outside perspective, there was 3 big positions, and everyone was interested to see how they perform. Now, what we can probably touch on is the blue chip players didn't actually show us very much.
Didn't do anything.
They didn't really do anything. Now, they did speak. They all spoke quite well. I don't think there was any alarm bells in any of the conversations held with Drake May, with Jaden Daniels. And likewise, there was no one that suddenly stood out above the others, head and shoulders, really, on anything that they said or convicted. But it looks like Claire's got something
Depends who
important
you
to say. So what were your thoughts, Claire?
No, that depends on who you ask. Not me personally, but it depends upon who you ask, because JJ McCarthy was apparently more of a standout. Apparently. Now, that's not from me. That's from like the general consensus on social media and stuff like that I am throwing at you. As you all know, I'm all for one of the top three quarterbacks at number three. I'm not really on the McCarthy train, but each to their own and everything. But he apparently there was a standout with him. Apparently,
Well, there seems to be a lot of buzz around him, and his stock, we're being told, is rising in NFL circles, not necessarily in media or fan circles, but in NFL coaching circles. They think he's a good bit of clay that they could mold to become a future QB. I don't think anyone believes he's the finished article. And I think
no.
if you watch his throwing, he didn't look like the finished article. He missed some passes. If he'd gone out there and lit it up, even if he'd lit it up, everyone would have said, well, you're in shorts and a t-shirt with no defensive line coming at you, so what? But he didn't even light it up in that state. So I don't think it's his on-field merit that's necessarily put him head and shoulders above anyone. I think it's more that they think he has untapped traits that can be perfected. Personally, I have zero interest in McCarthy because I think he does fit into that mold of player that can be molded, for want of a better phrase. But the Patriots aren't in that position. They haven't got the ability to let him sit behind someone for a year,
that's the thing,
or more, grow into it, and then let him flourish. It's like they did almost with Jimmy G and Brady back in the day. They're not in that position. He's that perfect. He could find the perfect fit at maybe somewhere like the Giants, who are happy to go with Jones for a little bit longer, but develop McCarthy behind him and bring him through in the future. That's where it could be a good fit for him. The Patriots, who need a quarterback yesterday, it's not a good start. It's not a good fit. I have zero interest in JJ McCarthy as the Patriots' future quarterback. What I would say on the quarterbacks, and particularly their throwing drills, there wasn't anyone that really stood up. There was no one's stock that really rose. And if anything, they kind of plateaued, really, or dropped off. There was no one that could light it up. There was no one that you thought, you know what, he's shining. And so to that end, I'll let you make your point in a minute. To that end, what I thought that did was actually raise the stock of the top three. Because it now it really makes them stand out even more. If you were someone who thought, JJ McCarthy, maybe we could trade down and pick him up, or Penix, or Nix, or whoever your particular flavor is, if you thought, you know what, we could trade down a bit and get them in the first, or maybe trade up and get them in the first, or whatever, their stock's not really risen. They've not shown great promise, whether that's through the Senior Bowl that happened a few weeks ago, and the understanding being that there's no one really that shone there. Also through now this combine, there's no one that's really standing out and vaulting themselves up draft boards, to be honest. So what that does to me is it makes it even more solidified that with that third pick, the Patriots should be taking one of those quarterbacks. Now, I've got a question around that we can get to later, but to me, it solidifies they should be taking one of those three. What it also does is, if you're not taking one of those three, and I hope this isn't the direction the Patriots going.
By those three, you mean Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May? Just
correct.
Wanted to clarify, just so everybody knows what you're talking about, because we don't always know what you're talking about.
That if the Patriots are left with Jaden Daniels and they think he's not the man for me, if they're trading down, that should hopefully be increasing the stock trade value of that pick now, because if you are Atlanta or Denver or whoever, and you want to trade into that spot to get Daniels, you're going to have to give up more, because it appears, in my opinion, a bit of a drop off to the next wave of quarterbacks. So that was my impression on the quarterbacks coming out. What else did you think, Claire?
No, that's a really good point that you've made, that it feels like it's, as you said, increased the stock of the three, made that gap a little bit. But although the pushback of the sort of the consensus over on sort of media situations is that JJ McCarthy has jumped from that group to that group sort of thing. We don't agree on that, so that's fine. But that's the one thing to come out of it. I wanted to push back that you said that the performances at the combine hadn't pushed anybody's stock up, other than Sam Hartman. I think his stock went up. Not me personally, but I think the general consensus on him, maybe the stock went up.
No,
No, not me.
No,
not my jam. But it was just really funny to hear. So I think maybe, yeah. And for anybody that doesn't know, he's the one with the hair that they did like the slow motion of him, which was just really.
He's the next Jimmy G, the next model quarterback.
The thing is, I don't think Jimmy G's all that either. It's so funny. I have the weirdest taste, obviously.
I guess the other notes on the quarterbacks was that allegedly Penix came through all medicals and passed clear, which was a talking point, wondering. There's nothing official being released around that, but that's the buzz, the murmur, is that he did pass all his medicals clear. So if you are interested in taking him with the second pick, that may be a viable option. Personally, that's not the direction I'd go in.
Second round pick, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, just
mean that. Yeah, no, you're correct. And I don't know whether you saw this, the humour of Joe Milton, who launched absolute bomb down the field. There was something like 75 air yards. Absolute bomb down the field. But then in the short passing drill, blew it 15 yards over the receiver's head because he just got a cannon and he hasn't got any touch or any short range passing. But it was humorous to see that he could absolutely bomb it if he so wants to. If you need 20 yards, he can throw it 80 yards. If you need 80 yards, he can throw it 80 yards. Appears to be the demeanour with him. But no, that was my impressions of the quarterbacks coming out of it, was that although we saw nothing from the top three, if anything, possibly their stock did rise a bit. All eyes will now be on their pro days. Yeah,
it's interesting how the one reason I hate this time of year is because of what happens to the QB stock, because of the way that, like the JJ McCarthy thing, we call it, the McCarthy effect. All of a sudden, people are putting him from mid-second round, suddenly end of first round. Now he was in the top 10 recently in like mock drafts and stuff like this, and it's like, it's the quarterback fever that they get. And then there's the comps of Daniel's stock has moved up a little bit since kind of like last year, and now he might be way better than Drake May and things like this. And it's like the sort of the fickleness of the quarterback fever sometimes drives me a little bit crazy. And normally it doesn't matter because we don't normally care, but now we really have to, because as our opinion, myself and Chudders haven't kind of been shy about it, that we feel like number 3 really should be a QB. But moving away from the QB, because like everybody's talking about QB.
I was just going to say, you're right in what you're saying about how these people who originally were day 2 picks now seem to be voting. It reminds me, there's a few years ago, a quarterback you possibly remember, who rose from a few rounds back to get drafted 15th overall, a guy called Mac Jones, who turned out to be absolutely useless.
Really? Absolutely useless?
Pretty damn much, yeah.
Okay. Didn't have a decent first rookie year? No? Okay. Didn't win out the job from coming in? No? Okay.
No.
Anyway, moving it along, because I think that is an argument that may go on forever. And people are probably bored of it by now, so that's fine. We understand. We'll take it off there. So what other position sort of did you get? I mean, there was, as we said kind of off air, as we were joking about it, that there was so much coverage, which is amazing. But also when you need to then catch up because it's a little bit late time-wise and stuff like this, all of a sudden you find yourself with 10 hours of film that you were like, how am I going to squeeze this into a day or half a day? So there was a lot to watch. Personally, I'd watch it all if I could. I didn't. I watched a lot. I'm still planning to watch some more. But what else kind of stood out for you other than quarterback? I mean, were you intently watching the wide receivers? Because I haven't done that yet. Because to be fair, not to surprise anybody, but my top priority was tight end.
No.
I know, it's so shocking. But following tight end, it did go into offensive lineman. So I did spend a lot of time on the O lineman. So I'll confess, wide receiver hasn't hit my radar significantly as of yet, although I saw bits. So you're much more well versed in wide receiver than I am anyway. So
where I was going to kick off wide receiver was asking for you to sound off on your impressions of the alleged number one receiver, MHJ, and what you thought of his combine performance, because he obviously chose not to perform, and I know that you have strong opinions on that.
No, it wasn't he chose not to perform that I had a problem with, or an issue with, I suppose I should say. It was the not being there at all was what I was concerned about. No team meetings and stuff like that. That was, I didn't need to see him at the combine. So that's fine.
Is he off your board now? Like how much has this impacted you? Like, do you think now, is that diva mentality? Is that an attitude you don't like? Is he now, I don't want the Patriots taking him at 3 kind of territory? To be honest with you,
to be completely and utterly hands up honest, because there's no point not, I never considered him, because he's a top take, if you like. And for me, the Patriots need to take that quarterback at 3. So for me, I know he's going to go high because everybody said he's going to go high. So it's obvious he's going to go high. And for me, the Patriots need to focus on the quarterback. So whilst he's that elite talent, he was off my radar in a way, because I don't want to say I don't think they should pick him, because then people will come at me like saying, why wouldn't you want a generational talent and all this kind of stuff? It's not that. It's, you can't have everything with one pick. So for me, the choice is quarterback. So he isn't on my radar for that in that way, because it needs to be quarterback, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense, because I know people will get really mad that they think I don't like him, and that's not the case.
So is it similar with Joe Alt then? You don't care about Joe Alt because you don't think the Patriots should be picking him?
No.
Oh, is it different with Joe Alt? Who'd have thought?
Oh, you had to do that. Oh, that's so cruel. You're so cruel.
So,
yeah. Cruel. So cold and cruel.
I'm getting more and more intrigued by the lack of attention that's going into the combine from blue chip players now. And that's not just looking at this year, previous years now. And the kind of common trends now that are happening in college football, where players are now opting out from playing in bowl games because they don't want to get injured. They finish their season, they think they've done enough body of work, they'll opt out of playing in bowl games so they don't get injured. They now opt out of the combine from some, in the top 3 quarterbacks case, they were there, but they just chose not to do any of the drills. But they'll still meet with teams. To now you've got Harrison, who didn't do any of it. And like you said, he said, I'll still do interviews, but I'm not doing the combine. It's interesting to see how these college players, it's a new breed coming through now of, no, we'll do what we want, when we want, where we want. We won't just play along with the consensus or the games of everyone else. They're taking a bit more control.
It's concerning because it's all very well to a certain extent. It's when you take it that one step too far and your arrogance overtakes and starts to be very detrimental. And that's something that concerns me in general anyway. But no, it's not fair that you picked on me for Joe Alt, but he was there and he's really good. And I like my O lineman. But I was just,
So if the Patriots aren't taking a quarterback at 3, you're dismissing MHJ. You just want them to take Joe.
No, see, look, this is why I get people not liking me, because you put that kind of stuff out there. So everybody loves your takes and your opinions.
So now you can respond.
It's not that I don't like him at all.
So what would you do if they're not taking a quarterback? Let's say it's Daniels on the clock and the Patriots aren't a fan of Daniels. And I know you aren't really too. He's not your preferred. What would you, so if they're not going in a quarterback direction, would you rather they went MHJ or would you rather they went Joe Alt tackle? Or another player that I haven't mentioned?
Oh, God, I don't know.
I think you do. No. I think you want Joe Alt.
No.
You still want to admit it, but yeah. Okay.
Oh, no.
So we won't
Get enough
dwell on
hate mail
too
as it
much.
is. I
I'm
don't
giving
need
you
any
enough
more.
torture there. So other standout performers, I thought obviously Worthy set the official fastest, although someone has run faster 2:13. Sorry, 4:13 before. But Worthy was fast. I think that could possibly get him into the bottom of the first round. The fear is he's a good receiver, but the fear is it's another sort of Tyquan Thornton of he's damn fast. He's the fastest man on the board, but that doesn't necessarily make him a better receiver, just makes him a faster receiver. But that was a good performance, you got to say, from him. I thought Brian Thomas Jr. had a good performance. His stock possibly rose, or that certainly means I think he's going to go mid-late first round. Blake Corum, I really like him out of Michigan for the running backs. He performed okay. He performed well. I don't think he'll probably be on the board when the Patriots are picking in day 3, which is likely when they'd be looking at that sort of position, in all honesty, with so many needs ahead of that. But Roger Rosengarten, beg your pardon, Rosengarten, the Washington right tackle, is one that I've been keeping an eye on as well, because he was right tackle to Penix, which is obviously protecting the blind side for him. Interested to see how he performs, how well he fares out in the draft. He could be a later round on day 3 pick for right guard.
Is he the one that Evan sort of mentioned? He quite
possibly
liked.
I haven't consumed all of Evan's media, so possibly that was. And then
I may be wrong. Please don't quote me, anybody.
Right.
It was just the name rang a bell in that respect, so I wondered.
Well, we can get to your favourite subject now of tight ends. So Tanner McLaughlin is one that I've been keeping an eye on again. I'm intrigued by him out of Arizona. I think I mentioned that on the last cast we did. And I'm sure you're amused by Holker, who had caught one ball, didn't drop it, and then caught the next ball one-handed.
So good. Yeah, so good.
So, yeah, sound off about your tight ends, Claire.
I did enjoy that. Well, I'm not going to bore people because I really don't want to, but I just want to quickly point out, in my defense with regards to wide receiver, I didn't invest because time-wise, because obviously, as I mentioned, limited time. And I think, I haven't been shy in saying this, and we've had this conversation before, is for me, I wanted that wide receiver in free agency. I wanted that to be where they spent money. Problem is everybody's been franchise tagged and stuff like that, and I hope we do have time to talk about that, because I know that that's another topic that we wanted to mention. So I won't talk about the Titans very long, to be fair. But yeah, I think for me, a lot of it was I watched a bit of the wide receivers, but I wasn't invested, because part of me had put that investment in, I want them to get that sort of experience and spend the money sort of thing, but now it's maybe not looking so possible. Maybe I'll go back and have a look at all the wide receivers. But yeah, I mean, this class of tight ends obviously isn't as deep as it was last year, as I'm still getting over, as people that listen to the show and listen to my show and read my word know. There was some guys that looked good. What I want to look at more in depth before I really put out their choices and everything is the one thing I'm never very good at is sort of gauging where they'll go. So there's no good me saying, oh, I really like him and he's going to go in the second round when I'm hoping they'll take a tackle. I need to sort of look at the 3rd, 4th round sort of guys where their stock will be, because that's more where I'm hoping that they take, because I'm hoping they go quarterback, tackle, tight end personally. I know obviously everybody's entitled to their own opinion. That's just my one. So some of the guys that I like the look of, it might be a bit too rich, so they might have already gone. One of the ones, the later round guys, I believe, is Holker, as you said. He performed well. I haven't looked at his tape, so I'm only giving an opinion from what I saw at the combine. But he tracks the ball well. He was a little bit slow off the mark. Big guy, 6'5", 235. His sled performance was quite good. He pushed too high, but he lifted, so you could see that there was the power there. I love that drill. That's my favourite drill, is watching them push a sled. I could do that for hours, quite frankly. Ben Sinnott was somebody that I was interested in before, Kansas State. He may be a little too rich. I'm not sure yet. We've got to have a look. I don't think so, but he
Third,
Yeah.
fourth round probably for him.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
think
fourth,
so.
fifth.
Yes.
Fourth, fifth. Sorry.
I think I'm still looking okay in the numbers. Somebody who did stand out was Tip Bryman. Found him interesting. He has got a thick lower body. He did a great sled performance. A plus I put in my things because he had great feet, flat back, so his blocking ability was great. He's a mauler in the run game apparently, so he's definitely on my radar as well. As you said, McLaughlin performed well. And Jared Wiley, I've still got him in there. He's one of the bigger guys. So some of his performance was sort of, his sled wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was a little high, but as I said, he's a tall guy. He's an inline tight end and he does play with some speed. So I'm interested. There's definitely names that I'm interested in. How well they'll go, yeah, I'm not too sure. So this is like a work in progress for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
so
you got the rivals out. Go on.
No, sorry, the jury's still out on who exactly I would want to pick. I'm still doing my research and stuff like that, which is why I wanted people to sort of keep an eye on Pat's propaganda, because it's still a working process. There's still a lot of stuff I wanted to look at before I kind of put out there, oh, this is, what we're thinking, what we're hoping to get, really. So in the last few moments, because we only have the last few moments, did you want to talk about what went on with the franchising taggings and stuff like this, and how the Bills have decimated their defense, which is brilliant? Love it. Smash it.
Yeah, we certainly can. And like you say, I think one of the positions that possibly all Patriots fans were hoping they could attack in free agency was wide receiver. But we've seen Higgins, Pittman, Evans have all signed or tagged and come off the board. It still leaves Marquise Brown.
They haven't come off the board because they've got non-exclusive franchise tags. Some of them have got non-exclusive, so then that's still 2 picks. So then they're not completely done. They'll just be expensive, is all that sort of. Sorry, just being literal.
Yeah, there's still Brown, Ridley, Mooney, Davis, who are available for on the free agency that haven't been tagged in any way that you can go and speak to and negotiate with. Won't cost quite as much. Certainly, you're not going to have to give up any picks or anything else in capital to get them. And as has been reported, the Patriots have met and offered Bourne a contract, which he hasn't accepted and wants to hit free agency himself. Obviously, with less players being, or less of that elite talent being available easily, that possibly makes it more difficult to retain him if he's one of the few that are now available. But we'll see how that goes. I'd love them to retain Bourne. I like that they've met, they're offered, they're showing that keenness to keep him around. I hope that they do manage to do that, and it would be interesting if you brought in a Calvin Ridley, if you brought in Mooney.
Yeah, and not to forget to mention that safety Carl Duggar got the transition tag.
He did. As you said, there's quite a few defensive backs who've been released or who are available.
A lot of the cuts were defense. A lot of the cuts that I've got listed were sort of, as you said, cornerbacks, linebackers, defensive tackles. There's a lot of defense been decimated, I suppose, for now.
I'm hoping if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, that should help the Patriots with their transition tag for Duggar. Because if they're saying to him, go on, then go out and see what the best deal you can get is, if there's loads of defensive backs on the market, that hopefully should mean he ain't going to get too high an offer because there's lots of options there. Yeah. If he was the only one, then bidding for his services would be quite high and it would cost a lot to retain him. So if I've read it right, then the other teams who have all sort of cut their defensive backs in the past couple of days, that should help the Patriots with hopefully retaining Duggar for not too high a price. But I guess we'll see how that one plays out, really.
That's interesting. And don't forget to mention that not only have the Bills cut half of their defense, they've also signed Mitch Trubisky.
Woohoo. I'm expecting that some of those will come back on different contracts. I doubt they will have all been released and never be seen again in Buffalo, but we shall see.
Make me very happy. The Bills decimate their defense and suck. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love the
There's a
demise
lot.
of the Bills, though. To be fair,
There's a lot of trade rumors circling at the moment that the Patriots are interested in trading for Snead from KC,
KC
cornerback, which is intriguing. He's a brilliant cornerback. It would be a great grab if they could get him. I just don't know if that's a position I wanted to be giving up draft capital to go and get someone. Plus, you've hopefully got a number one corner coming back off injury in Gonzo this year.
Yeah.
So it would be brilliant to have two of them. Don't get me wrong. Personally, the plan of attack I had when I was looking at it, I quite like the Patriots to go get Gilmore back for a year or two on that contract, and then they'd have a bit of a mentor there for Gonzo as well. The sort of character, the quietness of Gilmore would mean he doesn't mind being a number two corner in the room if that's the way it played out, or he can be a number one corner if Gonzo's still coming back, needs a couple of games under his belt, like if he's still on that path. So that's the plan I was hoping for, but I guess we'll see how that goes.
That's an interesting one because he's definitely a name that would be very familiar with sort of the likes of May and Hightower and Covington. So you're talking about an individual that's very familiar in that situation. So
I'd like that to happen. He had a good season with the Cowboys. Yeah, I'd love it if they got him back. They'd have to pay for him. He's probably going to cost you 11, 12, 13, maybe. But it's a great wise head to have in the room as well as a great player. Yeah. He's getting on a bit. You're not going to get 5 years out of him. You're probably only going to get 2 at most. But yeah, I'd go do that. Now, tight end, which I'm sure again is one that you're very interested in because the Patriots have 0 tight ends. All 3 of them have now hit free agency. You probably saw Schultz has now signed a new contract.
3 years, 36 mil with the Texans.
So he's not available. So it really is leaving Henry as the best available to hopefully try and re-sign him. I know you were very excited that Johnny Smith is now available and you're hoping to bring him back. So that's a possibility.
Why would you put that out there as anything? That's utter crap. False representation considerably.
So of the free agent tight ends, what would you like to see the Patriots do?
I think it feels like they have to retain Hunter. It's like he's the top tight end out there at free agency anyway. That's a given. The next guy up is Cole Kmet, and good tight end. But if you're picking between those two, you've got to be bringing back the one that's familiar with the whole building, people, situations. I refrain from the same system because it's a new system and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it's you have to bring him back. If they don't, I will genuinely be shocked. And that's nothing to do with the fact that he's a tight end and this, that, and the other. And I love tight ends. If they don't do that, I will be really surprised that they, especially now, offense, building and stuff like that, and having someone who is there as some kind of mentor or whatever. I hate to say that that's what he's got to eke out his career doing, but it seems too obvious to me to not do it. So that's probably why they won't do it. But and he's the top free agents.
The only thing is, it's not their decision. Like, they can offer him. It's whether he wants to come back. And if he got an offer to, I don't know, be the number 2 behind Kelsey or something, he might prefer that as a chance to win a ring.
That's fair.
That's the only problem I can see there is how much does he want? He's essentially been part of the last reset, which hasn't gone well. And that's not all his fault. I'm not pinning it on him, but it hasn't been a successful reset to get the Patriots slingshot to the playoffs. Does he want to start that again with a new system is the question. I hope they do retain him. I'm like you. I'd love to see him stay with the Patriots. I just know it's essentially, he's not on their contract. It's not under their control. They can offer him the moon. It's a question of does he want it or not. Noah Fant is another name that's possibly, that is available, that he's not elite, but he's good tight end, or he has been good.
Was it Fant and I said Kmet? Did I get?
No, I think you're right.
I think I got my tight
might be available as well out of Chicago.
It's because I'm rushing now because we're right up against it.
Gesicki, I assume because you love him, you want him back. despite how rubbish he was.
Yeah. Because I'm just a glutton for punishment, obviously.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one we're getting in the end. The one question I wanted to ask you, which is more draft than it is combine, but having reviewed the three top quarterbacks now, the question that is being debated a lot around Patriots Nation is, who do you want? Are you a May guy? Are you a Daniels guy? Do you think they should be trading up to get Williams? It's which one do you want? But the reality is the Patriots aren't going to be able to choose the one they want unless they really are going to give something up, or a team above them decides they really want MHJ. The reality is Patriots aren't going to be choosing which quarterback they want from that elite top three. The question I'd like to hear being discussed more, being the talking heads giving their opinions on more, is there a QB from those top three you don't want? So if Williams is the one that's left, if Daniels is the one that's left, if May is the one that's left, would you take him? Is there any of those top three, Claire, that you wouldn't take if they're the one on the board when the Patriots are picking?
I've already had this discussion on numerous occasions, I believe. Just because you can't get the answer from everybody else doesn't mean you should only get it out of me, to be fair. But yeah, my top pick is May, and I don't know how I feel about Daniels. I don't see them being able to take Williams. I said to you before we even started draft stuff
But would you take
I don't see how they... Probably, yeah.
Okay. So if the Patriots are sat and May's the one on the board, you take him before you couldn't sprint faster to the podium to take him.
I think so.
If Williams on the board is the third one and on the board, you think you take him. Daniels, if he's the one on the board.
I don't know. I'm not certain about him. I'll be honest with you. I'm not so sure.
Okay, so by the draft, we need to get a definitive
him,
answer out of you. Okay, we need to get that definitive answer. You can say yes or no.
Why?
If Daniel's on the board, are you taking him or not?
You're just grumpy because nobody else is saying it.
No, my answer is I take all three. If May's there, I'll take May.
No, I mean, you want the media to be answering you, and you want somebody to sort of definitely say, and nobody wants to.
Well, rather, I don't know.
And on that,
getting splinters sitting on that fence.
And that is it for another episode of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. As we mentioned, we will be back bringing you some more sort of in-depth free agency discussions. As mentioned, keep your eyes peeled on Pat's Propaganda for some combine coverage. I'm going to bring you some bits of information there in the form of articles. So if you're interested in reading, do go over there and have a look. Keep your eyes peeled for some of that. So until next time, this was episode 21, folks. So from him, Chudders, from myself, Clazzy Clare, tune in next time and go Pats.
LFG.